Wenn Reich gestartet, Vorsicht an der Bahn, es geht weiter. Erste von Gleich auflisten und dann zweite Lauf und 13:34.
Sleds Reich, 5:64 am Start, kommt zur Zwischenzeit Goal.
Contenders. 5 Minuten bis zum Start des zweiten Laufs.
High in the Engadine Valley is the town of St. Moritz, and just below it in the valley is the Celerino to where they slide. For over 100 years, they've been racing down this same stretch of mountainside, either in bobsleds or on skeleton sleds on the Cresta Run. Well, hello everybody, welcome back to our World Cup action here. The first of two four-man races this weekend. The fifth World Cup of the season. And a close battle for supremacy. Now, it's the second time they've raced here on this track this year. Silver medalist 2 weeks ago was Johannes Lochner of Germany. He currently lies in third position. Hansi with 98 World Cup medals in 2 and 4 man. In the silver medal position is the winner last time out, Francesco Friedrich, hunting for his 60th 4-man medal this weekend. But the man who leads them all is not in yellow. Oh, no, no. It's bronze medalist 2 weeks ago, Brad Hall of Great Britain, looking for his 5th 4-man World Cup win, his 25th World Cup medal. So 1 heat in, 1 to go. Brad Hall leads Francesco Friedrich by 1300s. Hansi Lochner 3/10 back. Victory's going to be a stretch. And what about Cedric Follador? Could he grab his first ever World Cup medal? The answer is only 800s out of bronze. He might, if he tidies up his act. Top 20 have gone through into the second heat. Krantz, Van Vesseling, Brown, Torrea and Baird did not. Adam Baird crashing, in fact, in Nameless, and a long, fast run down to the finish for him and his crew. They all seem to be OK. Mihai Tente of Romania, like everybody else, warming up in the garage. The covered garage just up the hillside from the start area. Actually, down the hillside, strictly speaking, I suppose. And Mihai Tente, the only Romanian sled in. Both Canadians made it through, Taylor Austin and Pat Norton. Both of our Italian sleds made it through. Mattia Variola 19th, but his teammate is well up the order, Patrick Baumgartner, in a tie for 5th position. So, wasn't an all-German podium here 2 weeks ago, and may not be again this time. Our start list is the top 20, but in reverse order. They're her first heat performance. So Taylor Austin goes off first, and the last away will be the leader as ever, and that will be Brad Hall, with plenty to defend against Francesco Friedrich, Johannes Lochner and the rest. Race 5, IBSF 4-man Bobsleigh World Cup in St. Moritz in Switzerland. Taylor Austin, 20th in Heat 1, gets us underway for Canada with Mark Zanette, Johan Eskrik Parkinson and Chris Ashley behind him. They started 5.28 in the first heat. Get in, get your hands on the D-rings before you get to kink 1. Let the boys behind load as quietly as they can. Keep it nice and still all the way down through kink 2. Look at those tracks in the track in front of you. You want to go straight down the middle if you can. They started 5.28 in the first heat, so just a little slower in the second. Now that might be change to the surface of the ice at the start as well. Might be just a fraction more friction. Maybe a slightly less efficient load. Nice run down to Horseshoe, the signature corner here, big height. Drops down into Telephone and Shamrock. Hits hard into Devil's Dyke. That pushes him onto the wrong side for Nameless. Into Tree. And then Bridge. And then the short shoot into Leap and Gunter Sachs. And then the slightly longer straight down to Martineau. Skidding towards Port Martineau. Out. Avoids a hit into Portago as they cross the Cresta run. Nearly rolls off Portago. 107.38, 106.78 in the first heat. Just as well, he didn't set that time in the first heat, or he would not be in the second heat. Well, he can drop no further than 20th place, which is where he started. Again, a couple too many errors creeping in. Late off Telephone, late off Shamrock into Devil's Dyke, and here gets a tap and a long skid at over 80 miles an hour. That's robbing you of speed, as you can imagine what it would do in a car. It does the same in a sled. Mattia Variola for Italy, 19th place with Jose Abu, Riccardo Ragazzi and Fabio Batti in the sled. 14th fastest at the start, and again a little untidy below Horseshoe, drifting away to 19th at the bottom. He needs to get in and have control of the sled into kink 1. Seemed to recall in the first heat he didn't entirely. And that's a problem with running it long as the driver. You can let the race horses behind you run it long, but only one of you can steer it round. Gets it through kink 1 successfully off a 5.16, so same as their first start. And again, nice and quiet. Runners being led by the little grooves. You can see it was tramlining down there. Jumping from one set to another, little tap before wall. Well, his battle is less with Taylor Austin and more with the sleds in front. Mihai Tentea's only 200s ahead of him. Lee Chun-Jan only 500s ahead of him. Matti Behenek only 600s ahead of him. So we're straight into a tight battle for supremacy. Good speed, 106 kilometers, 66.9 miles an hour. Now up to 74.2 miles an hour. Ooh, uncomfortable between Leap and Sachs. That is going to cost him speed, and between Martineau and Portago as well. Comes across the line, 106.81. 106.63 in the first heat, so not as quick. Well, it was an untidy bottom part of the track. Still went out to 7/10 ahead of Taylor Austin's crew. Right up by the woodwork, just taking a little bit of frost off there. Got in slightly left of the ideal line into Horseshoe, drove it up, let it rise, and then rolled it off that apex down into Telephone. Yeah, nicely onto Telephone. So the Italians lead with 18 sleds to go. Next up, Romania's Mihai Tentea with Constantin Dinescu, Mihai Pacianu and Georg Jordash. Double four-man weekend, so it'll be four-man again tomorrow. No two-man Saturday, four-man Sunday. 5:20 getaway, 5:20 in the first heat. Habitually outdrives his start pretty well. Started 19th in the first heat, ended up only 18th, but 200ths off 17, 300ths off 16, and a 10th off 15th. And right now, with that slightly slower start than Matteo Variola's crew, just a little bit in deficit. Lots and lots of traffic coming down the road. Road is supposed to be closed to normal traffic during the season. Lots of people having to come through as roads are closed in town, apparently. That's why it's so busy. Second best speed. Tentea still not really within touching distance of Mattia Variola, and a big skid there. Well, has best speed, but it's not going to be enough, is it? Surely can't take the lead from Variola, and doesn't. 106.99. So Mattia Variola and the boys remain in the leaders' box. They pick off one. They'll be no worse than 18th. Mihai no worse than 19th. A decent start, but unfortunately Tentea not as tidy in the second heat as Mattia Variola, and that's cost them a space. Lee Chun-Jan of China, 17th after the first heat, 500s in hand, massive amount, over Mattia Variola and his crew. Zhang Yaoyan, Shi Yaolong and An Tai. And Tai the brakeman Swapping over from Sun Kai-chi's team, with whom he's made all his previous World Cup starts in 2-man and 4-man. And Anne is new to the World Cup this season. So, second driver in his 5th 4-man race. 5:21 getaway. See, it's still pretty breezy. Starting a little slower than Mattia Variola's crew and losing their first heat advantage, but gaining it back pretty quickly. He is the better placed of the 2 Chinese sliders in the World Cup rankings. He's been ahead of Sun in every race this year, except for this one. And that's both in 2-man and 4-man. 3rd best speed, slipping behind Variola again. Don't forget, Variola was only 500s back in the first heat. And Lee not quite as quick as the Italian, not quite as smooth in the forest. Good speed, it's going to be close, not close enough, 106.90. Jose Abu there in the middle, giving his driver a little bit of grief. Riccardo Ragazzi and Fabio Batti in the leader's box with Mattia Variola. Good height. Watch the runner tips. There's the steer. Quite a hard steer off. He realised he was going high and long in horseshoe and had to drive it off pretty firmly into telephone. Judged it pretty well, but Lee Chun-jan slips a spot. Not going to be his day, maybe. Matej Behunek rather, of the Czech Republic, only, was it 800s, 600s? I can't do the maths. In front of Mattia Variola. These gaps are all tiny. 16th place after the first of the 2 heats here. Michal Dobesh, Antonin Vijas and new boy Lukas Petrovic on the back. 5.19. And as in the first start, leaving the driver's handles out till they're out of kink 1. And then Michal Dobesh flicking them back in. 200s up, tiny margins. They started just 300 slower than the Italians. And now he's just adding a little to that. Little late off Nash and Dixon, or off Dixon, but got away with it. Smooth out of horseshoe into telephone, big skid into Shamrock. And that could be the lead gone. 3rd best speed. That is the lead gone. Bennett is late in the trees, not timing these correctly, giving away speed. 4th best speed, he's going to drop behind Lee Chun-jan as well. Top 2 covered by 400s. Yep, 5th place, 3rd place rather, tied with Mihai Tentea. Dominic Dvorak on the right-hand side. All right, well, there you go, 107.03. So they will be tied for no worse than 18th place with Mihai Tentea. Let's slip a couple of spots. Mattia Variola has moved up 3 already. A big old skid there. And then again in the forest, making errors, hitting the wall, just robbing the sled of speed. 5 down, 15 to go here in St. Moritz. Mattia Variola leads for Italy. Next up, returning to World Cup racing after 2 years of retirement is Roman Heinrich. His last 4-man race in the seniors was his last race, and that was in February 2023 in the World Championships here. That's when he pulled down the curtain and retired, and now he's back. Lionel Lefebvre and Dorian Hauteville, names we know well from previous races, but along with them, Niels Pleron, one of their new recruits, joining them at 3. 5:15 start, started 5:09 in the first heat. And a couple of little errors crept in low down on the track. 2 full years since he's raced on this track. And he only did 3 Europe Cup races to get his hand back in with a brand new sled as well. Not bad through Nash and Dixon, but hits the wall coming up to Horseshoe. Still in the green, low line in Horseshoe. Needs to build speed here in the woods. Speed's not in the sled. 200's up, 4th best speed. Could be very tight with Variola. I think that little error there is not going to help them either. 2nd best speed, still got a slender chance. How close is he at the line? 100th in front. And the ugliest exit out of Portago that we've seen, I think, other than Adam Baird's, which was with the sled upside down. But that was really not tidy. Gets unfortunate here, late off Dixon, tags the wall. Fortunately, it stays relatively straight. Decent height in Horseshoe, not way up high. But brings it off nicely. And then had a shamrock skid. And down here in the forest as well. Bridge to leap, little skid. Not bad though. Top 15 guaranteed on his return to World Cup racing. Next up, Pat Norton, Mike Evelyn, Keaton Brugling and Shaq Murray-Lawrence. Keaton, the new boy this season. And Pat Norton, now in his 4th World Cup race of the season. 5:18 getaway. Good start from Pat Norton. 4th World Cup race this season, his 8th in total, so he will have done as many World Cup races this year as in the rest of his career put together. And we haven't finished the season yet. A little rocking and rolling early on. Lost behind the buses on the road. Best speed so far, creeping away from Roman Heinrich. 1100's up now. He only had 500s from the first heat. Ooh. Gathering it all together. Little skid as well. Bridge to leap. Tap and a big skid. This could be trouble. Skidding again, tapping again, behind at the line, no, stays in front. So Pat Norton will be no worse than 14th place. The boys finished 13th 2 weeks ago here. 30 seconds. So they just need to pick up 1, and that will be equal best result here in St Moritz, and equaling 2nd best result in World Cup, his best ever, an 11th place finish in Lake Placid. Track he does know better than this. Well, Norton was only 200s behind Jacobs Kellender of Latvia, with Laus Kaufmanis, Maris Kava, and making his 60th 4-man World Cup race start, Mats Miknes. Miknes is at 3. 5:12 start in the first heat. Neat and tidy off kink 1, 5:11. Velocity is the best.
Fastest push time in 2nd heat. Jacobs Kellender.
So fastest push so far. Ooh, little drift. Out of wall into snake. Avoided the tap into Sunny. Avoids the tap out of Sunny. Better through Nash and Dixon. Ooh, little drift, hits the wall. Needs the height in Horseshoe. Hits into Telephone. Late onto Shamrock. Gathers it up in Devil's Dyke. Ooh, interesting line into Nameless. Not the greatest speed, that's all the work he's having to do. Getting into Horseshoe wrong and skidding down at the bottom here. Good speed, 89 miles an hour, and across the line has the lead, 106.67. So Pat Norton and his Canadian team leave the leaders box. Jacobs Calendar in the lead with 12 to go. Out of Dixon, down to Horseshoe. Haven't seen many foremen tap on the left there. Out of Horseshoe late. Has to really drive it off hard. Not a comfortable take on into Telephone. Untidy run from Calendar. And that should relieve a little bit of the pressure on Mickey Vokes. Not that he'll have been looking over his shoulder. 12th place after the first heat, a quarter of a second ahead of Calendar. His attention will all be on trying to get up into the top 10. Vokes returning after Christmas from his injuries in Altenburg last year. 5.19. So decent start from Mickey and the crew, 5.14 in the first heat. He didn't have the tidiest drive down. I mean, especially not for somebody of his driving ability, his experience, and his knowledge of St. Moritz. 1500s up. Not adding an awful lot to his initial advantage over Calendar. Locked to Cowbell down at Horseshoe. Good height, good exit. Now this is where he'll start to build the speed. 106.4, 66 miles an hour. 74.5 miles an hour now. 2700s. He is creeping away. He was a quarter second up on Calendar in the first heat, so this is barely any quicker than the Latvian. This is not going to be light years ahead of what everybody else is doing. Skids Martineau to Portago. 106.50. Well, 1700s faster than Calendar on that run. But they are not going as quickly as they were in the first heat. Calendar 3,300 slower than his first heat, and Mickey 3,100 slower. So after a mild night, certainly by St. Moritz standards, the overnight low didn't get into minus double digits. It's a warm day, and the track is not getting quicker. So Mickey Vokes leads with 11 to go. Sun Kai-chi will desperately not want to drop down the order behind teammate Lee. This is the first time he's had the upper hand so far this season. Ding Song Ye Long, the 18-year-old newcomer, and Chen Heng, who's verging on being a veteran now, the brakeman. Sixth fastest start for these boys, 5:08. Really good getaway in the first heat, 5:16 in the second. Not quite as fast, but a tidy load. Trying to cut the corner there at Kink 2. Maybe again. You can see the deep grooves left in the ice by the runners. Maybe the sleds are tramlining a little more than we're used to seeing. Often this track, the ice is as hard as marble. Today it's only as hard as normal ice. Decent height. Oh, and he's crashed out of Telephone. And the sled is still picking up speed. Over 63 miles an hour. Even on its side. The friction not doing much to slow it. 67 down into Martineau. That's an uncomfortable ride, and track workers will be doing well to stay out of the way. This is going to come a long way up, like Adam Baird did in the first heat.
We have a crash.
Sun actually crashed a little earlier than Bairdy's boys. They're going to grab the sled before it builds up any speed, hopefully. So out of horseshoe, late height in horseshoe, late. Watch the runners, doesn't steer it off enough. And then suddenly he's pushed up and it just rolls off the end of the corner. He was never making telephone in a month of Sundays. Didn't realise the damage that he was doing by not steering there. And then didn't haul it off, all too late. And very close. I mean, you know, the judgment there between safety and disaster. 100th of a second, 200ths of a second too late, reacting to the danger. And over they went. Well, the track crew have arrested the sled. And our athletes are clambering out. Medical crew will be waiting at the finish line for them. They will examine them. Mickey Vogt leads. We have 10 sleds to go. Jacobs Callender, Pat Norton, the remainder of the top 3. And Roman Heinrich in 4th place on his return. So Sun Kai Chi, the crew did cross the line. They will be classified. They will get points for 20th place unless somebody else crashes and further up and comes across the line behind them. But they will be classified as finishers. Looks like the boys are out. And they'll be feeling pretty second-hand. If any of you have come off a motorcycle, even at pedestrian speeds, you know what that feels like. All right, they weren't on tarmac, but they were doing 65 miles an hour for a good 30 seconds, just bouncing around in the sled. It's not padded, it's not built for comfort. Heads bonking on the wall and bouncing off the ice. Yeah, they're going to be very stiff tomorrow. And tomorrow is another 4-man day. So 5-minute track hold, as is mandatory. And then we will go with our final 10 sleds. Fabulous views everywhere around here in St. Moritz. The town itself only just below the tree line, 1,780 metres, I think the start is above sea level, and about 1,800 metres the tree line runs out. Beautiful scenery, beautiful location, and the history just drips from the walls. In the bar there behind, in the Gunter Sachs Lodge, all sorts of memorabilia, ephemera from the last century plus of racing. Cartoons of drivers from the 30s and the 40s and the 50s, and photographs and memories, and lots of old hands chewing the fat and yarning on about how great it was when they were sliding, and it still is. And that's the joy, is that the tracks and the names change, but the track and the challenge remains the same. Well, there's Mickey Vogt on the right, the Swiss crew. So they remain in the leader's box, and the potential of a top 10 finish for the boys. Alan Knuser joining them for the first time in a year. His last 4-man World Cup race was here last season. So you can see the grooves that are cut, the big groove there, cut for the runners to follow, the drive lines, but where the sleds are being laid on the ice, even with cold runners, and they'll be barely above freezing, that friction is still causing indentations on the ice. And certainly before you get down to wall, the runners are falling into grooves and they are tramlining. So track workers with a little bucket of slush. Looks like there was nothing too much that needed fixing. Deep breath. Frank Del Duca thinking his way down the track. I think that was the steer off horseshoe. Now he's in the forest. Devil's Dyke nameless, tree, bridge, leap. Can almost see you thinking your way down there, can't you? Some do it in their head, some rehearse as the body's moving around. But it's all part of sport. It's rehearsing in your head what you want to happen repeatedly makes it more likely to happen. Still a bit of a breeze today. It's not sun's out, guns out. Normally it's still and very warm in the sunshine. Mickey Vogt and the boys. Alan Knuser, Andy Haas, Dominic Hufschmidt. So the Swiss lead with 10 to go, including more Swiss sleds. And there's a little viewing gallery overlooking the finish area. And overlooking the start, lots of friends and family. Getting back underway then with race 5 of the IBSF four-man Bobsleigh World Cup. 10 down, 10 to go. And Frank Del Duca with a 5-minute track hold after a crash for Sun Kai-chi of China. All the boys out of the sled seem to be okay. They'll be checked over by the medical crew. Frank Del Duca with Carsten Vissering, Charles Volker and Dylan Gilbert, the new boy on the back of the sled. Volker proposed to his fiancée this weekend. She came out to watch the races in St. Moritz and he had a surprise for her. And not only did he have a surprise for her, the social media crew were there filming it as well. How to put pressure on a young lady not to say no. I don't think that was possibly going to be an option anyway, but congratulations to the two of them. Not the first US athletes to propose in St. Moritz. So let's see what they got. 6th best start, 5:08, 10th at the bottom. Wasn't the tidiest of runs from Frank Del Duca. He can drive tidier. Let's see what they've got in the second heat. Little slow load, 5:11 at the start. A 10th ahead of Mickey Vogt as they load in this distinctive looking MUSA sled. 1600s up. Ooh, little uncomfortable out of Snake 2. Got away with it into Sunny. Needs to come clean out of Nash and Dixon. Little skid down to Horseshoe. Good height. Not bad into Telephone. Cuts the corner in Shamrock. Pays for it in Devil's Dyke. Only the 8th best speed. The gap is coming down. He's going to be in the red. Only the 8th best speed. It's going to be a top 10 for Mickey Vogt. I don't think Frank Del Duca, no, he's definitely not going to make it in now. Very untidy below Horseshoe. Only the 10th best speed. He'll do well to be second at the line. He's 100th ahead of Jacob's calendar. He is second at the line. Still hasn't quite got the rhythm of this track in his head, Frank Del Duca. Well, Mickey Vogt leads with 9 to go. 16th place last time out 2 weeks ago. 14th last year. So he'll be no worse than 11th. It is an improvement, but again, it's 8 out of 10. Could do better. Just too many little driving errors down in the trees. 9th place, Jakob Mandelbauer, now Austria's #1 driver, with Marcus Treichel on the sidelines after a knee injury last week. Adam Wiener, one of his regular guys, joins the crew. But it's Diane Nichols-Bardi and Christian Huber from Treichel's crew who are at 3 and 4, and it was due to be Sascha Stepan at 2 as well. The #1 starting crew. 5:19 start. With with the quicker starters behind him. Jakob Mandelbauer definitely knows now that he's going to have to up his starting game the way that Marcus Treichel has. Ooh, very high on Snake 1 and paid for it as well. Hit hard into Snake 2. Was 100th up, will be in the red, is in the red. Good height, nice exit. It's not as tidy as his first run, but he can recover. Second best speed. He's a good young driver, little late exit. We've seen a lot of that. From Nameless to Tree, skidding in the forest again. Oh, not going to be in the lead. It is second, 2800s back, ahead of Frank Del Duca. Top 10 finish, though, for Jakob Mandelbauer. Previous best in any World Cup outing was an 11th place finish in Innsbruck last season. And Mandelbauer now with his first ever World Cup top 10. Don't think that's going to result in another haircut for Wolfgang Stampfer, but I think Wolfie will be a little more cautious about his bets with his athletes in future. So it is still Mickey Vogt who leads. Had to check twice there. Timo Röner next up, so we'll have a Swiss leader after this with 7 to go. Timo Röner with Greg Jones back in the sled, and Tim Annan and Mathieu Herzberger, this year's additions to the crew. Tim Annan's brother Deborah had another big race in the Monobob this morning. 5:22. Lots of Hop Suisse. Lots of cowbell as well. Timo Röner, whose dad Marcel, like Tim Annan's dad Martin Annan, a standout in Swiss bobsledding in the early part of this century. 1100s up at the start, only 500s ahead of teammate Mickey Vogt. Vogt the most experienced of the 3 Swiss drivers. But Röner stabilising the ship. Second best speed. Vogt was quickest all the way down to the finish line, though. Highest speed of all now. 74.4 miles an hour. Tied with Mickey Vogt. This is going to be very close indeed. It might be a dead heat at the bottom. He's a whisker quicker than Vogt. 400s. So Timo Röner holds his spot. He will be no worse than 8th place. It is a Swiss 1-2. World Cup best ever for Timo Röner, 6th place. Last time out here. He was 8th in Altenburg, so another 8th place will be his 2nd best World Cup result. Now, next up, Kim Jin-soo of Korea. Started as a World Cup driver this season, and boy, has he ever come on fast. 7th place off the 4th best start. Kim Sun-wook, Kim Hyun-kyun, and Lee Kyun-yu behind him. Hyun-kyun in only his 4th 4-man race, his previous outings all in St. Moritz. 5:09 getaway. Whisker slower than their first. Nice run so far, 2300s up on Mickey Vogt. He had 1500s from the first heat, but he's clattering it away now. Untidy into Sunny and through Nash and Dixon and up to Horseshoe and low in Horseshoe. Late off telephone, Shamrock hits Devil's Dyke. Speed is going away. not the run that he needed in any way, shape or form. Kim Jin-soo, though, is going to be a big feature in the future. All the mistakes, apart from overdriving it into kink 1. 4th at the line, 107.04. Disappointing run for the Koreans, but he has got so much potential. That is a top 10 finish guaranteed for Kim. 4th with 6 to go. Well, he'll be disappointed with that. But they were thrilled with their first run and their first start, 5:05. You could hear the crew absolutely explode. 12th here 2 weeks ago, no worse than 10th now. His progress is definitely on the up. Yes, he'll be disappointed, but surely not for long. Well, he's got to come back and do it all again tomorrow anyway. Next up, Patrick Baumgartner of Italy, Eric Fantazzini, Rob Messier and Lorenzo Bellotti in the crew. Another big, strong starting getaway from these guys. 5:08 in the first heat. Let's see if they can match that in the second. Almost nobody has matched their first start. 5:13, they don't either. Start track is obviously not as fast running as it was before. Getting a little bit mild. 2800s up on Timo Rona. And don't forget, Rona and Vogt cover by 400s. So if you don't beat one, chances are you're not going to fit between them. Holding his advantage, 2800s. Nice height, good exit, nice telephone, and Shamrock gets well onto Devil's Dyke. Best speed of all from Baumgartner. Tied for 5th place with Adam Amor of Germany. Can he finish ahead of Amor? It's a good run from Patrick Baumgartner. Not too much to criticise. Little rub there. Martino Portago across the line, 106.54. Fastest run of the heat so far. Moderately underwhelmed by that, then obviously the crew. Absolutely rip-snorting reaction from the team. They gave it everything at the start. Baumgartner drove that pretty nicely. Tiniest nudge away into Nameless. A little brush with the wall between Martino and Portago. Best result in his World Cup career, silver in Beijing. Best result in St. Moritz, a 6th place finish. He leads with 5 to go, and in 5th place, tied with Baumgartner in the first heat, Adam Amor with Big Benedict Hertel at 2, Issam Amor at 3, Rupert Schenk at 4. How Benedict Hertel gets in behind Adam Amor, I don't know. 5:05, what a good, strong start, only 100th off their first. 3rd fastest starters in the first heat. Tied to the 100th with Baumgartner, but now 800 faster at the start, 1300s up. Woo, big loop in Snake 1 and Snake 2. 1600s up. Maybe he's just letting the sled have its head. Out of Dixon. Ooh, long drift up to Horseshoe, avoids the tap with the wall. Neatly into Telephone. Late onto Shamrock, not too bad onto Devil's Dyke. Best speed from Adam Amor. Creeping away from Patrick Baumgartner. Baumgartner may not get a top 5 out of this. His best result in St. Moritz is a top 6. Looks like that's where he's going to be. Amor takes the lead, 106.17. So Adam Amor will be no worse than 5th. But he was 27 hundredths of a second out of the medals in the first heat. Not sure that's going to take him onto the podium. Did he get in clean? Yes, he did. A little late, maybe. Just about had the sled into kink one. Decent height and rotated late as well. And that's the key there in horseshoe. Big smile from Adam and two big thumbs ups. Okay, so Adam Amor leads, 4 to go. Are we going to get a Swiss sled in the medals? It would be a first time if Cedric Follador can do it, and there is a lot of talent to beat. Nicola Mariani, Luca Rolli, and late substitute Kanta Jaya behind them. Loping off like a racehorse at the back. 5:12 first start. 5:13 second start. They had 19 hundredths, I beg your pardon, over Adam Amor from the first heat, and that has all gone. Just 300ths of a second in front. This is going to be about driving to stay ahead of Amor and somehow trying to be better than the next sled down, which will be Hansi Lochner. Decent run so far. Third best speed. Looks a little, I don't know, controlled rather than flowing. Good in the forest though. Good speed from Follador. Okay speed from Follador. Only 89.4 miles an hour. Across the line, dead heat with Adam Amor. Well, if you don't have a dead heat, is it actually a race? They will be no worse than fourth. Yes, baby. See, even our Franco-Swiss is getting better with time, isn't it? Best ever World Cup result for Cedric Follador before today. 5th place finish in Lake Placid. Best ever result for Cedric Follador before today in St. Moritz. 6th place finish. Now no worse than 4th. 3 to go. Johannes Lochner with Florian Bauer, Eric Bruckert and Georg Fleischauer. They've moved the crew around. Fleischauer there in the middle on the back row instead of at 2. So the other boys have shuffled up. Florian Bauer from the brakes to 2. Eric Bruckert remains at 3. 5:01, second fastest start. Oh, little uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. Really, really running it too far. Hansi did not have the sled. Well, only 800ths faster than Cedric Follador in the first heat. They outstarted them by a 10th. He's only got a 10th in hand, and that awful run down through kink 1 is costing him. He may not even be in the lead at horseshoe. He's got a good run through Nash and Dixon. He's clinging on to a medal by the skin of his teeth at the moment. Best speed though for Johannes Lochner. Now it's starting to flow. Smooth through the trees. 1:21.0. Fastest sled. Lochner has got it back under control. He will be the leader with 2 to go. He will take a medal here in St. Moritz. 1:06.16. So we will have at least one German sled on the podium. He leads from the tie between Follador and Amor. But oh goodness, Hansi, kink 1. So he gets in, gets down, it's out of the drive lines, his hands are still out of the cockpit. And that is not optimal. Hansi's got to get in a couple of steps earlier and drive it into kink 1 tomorrow. 2 to go. Who is going to win here? Friedrich next up. Francesco Friedrich looking for his 60th four-man World Cup medal. With Matthias Sommer at 2, Alex Schuller at 3, Felix Straub at 4. Fastest starters, 4:99 in the first heat, 5:01 in the second, still quicker than anybody else. 1300s out of the lead. He needs to be so smooth. It's not about Hansi, it's about gold. Lochner is already sealing his 99th podium in the senior level in bobsleigh in World Cup, World Championships and Olympic Games. But is this going to be win number 60, or medal number 60 rather, for Friedrich? 6th best speed. The gap over Lochner is coming down late there. 7th best speed. It could still be enough. He'll have the lead at the bottom, but is it enough to win the race? 6th best speed, not the best ever drive from Friedrich down this track. 1:06.27. But he takes the lead with 1 to go. We may still have 3 German sleds on the podium. But that was not a perfect run by any means, and certainly not if you'll call Francesco. Good height in horseshoe, good late height. Doesn't overdrive it off, but down in the forest, he was late. He was a little late onto telephone there as well. Sliding around in the trees. Everybody now watching the monitor, because the final sled is Great Britain's Brad Hall, with Taylor Lawrence, Aaron Gulliver and Leon Greenwood behind him. In the last 3 races, Hall has been in the medals. Gold, bronze, silver. Silver last week, bronze here 2 weeks ago, leading by 1300s. And looking really smooth in the first heat. 5:05 first start, 5:10 second start. They give away 500s of their 1300s advantage to Friedrich. But he was super smooth in run 1 and needs to be again. And Friedrich's faster start means that Hall is behind coming into Snake. Got to be smooth out of Sunny, down to Nash and Dixon. 700s back. Beautiful exit from Dixon, up to Horseshoe. And this is where he made his speed. Driving high out of Horseshoe. 300s back, 2nd best speed. Quicker than Friedrich. Lochner was the fastest. Into the lead over Francesco Friedrich. That's where he overhauled Friedrich in the first heat. Smooth in the forest. Great run from Brad Hall. This is enough. It is enough. 2nd best speed. Clean from Martineau to Portago. Gold in St. Moritz for Brad Hall. He beats Friedrich in both heats. 1:06.19. His 25th World Cup medal. His 5th four-man win. Second win of the season, 5th of his career, 4th straight medal in four-man for Brad Hall and Team GB. And the option.
Hey, Curly, how are you?
Greg Cackett back at home watching the action, and with a measure of jubilation and frustration, I'm sure. And the boys will be on the TV news again tonight in the UK. Great Britain's Brad Hall drives away from Francesco Friedrich not once but twice. bronze here 2 weeks ago. It is a gold medal day for Brad Hall, Taylor Lawrence, Aaron Gulliver and Leon Greenwood. His 25th career World Cup medal. So Brad Hall the winner by 2100s. Francesco Friedrich ahead of Hansi Lochner. Then the tie, Follador and Amor for 4th. Baumgartner in 6th. Timo Rona, like Baumgartner, career high. Cedric Follador, a career high as well. Just outside the 10, Frank Del Duca, his best result in St. Moritz. And Sun Kai-chi and his crew seemingly okay after their crash. Hopefully they'll be able to join in tomorrow's action as well, because race 2 of the weekend will happen tomorrow for the 4-man. Will Brad Hall do it again? Well, on the basis of those 2 runs, he has the overnight lead in the World Championships, metaphorically. He will come back tomorrow hunting for gold again. But so will Lochner and Friedrich and the rest.
Come on! Done it. Finally, golden Moritz.
Yeah, let's try and do it try and do it again tomorrow.
Try and do 2 in a row, exactly. There's always this thing with racing drivers. They want to win their home Grand Prix, they want to win in Monaco. Everybody in bobsleigh also wants to win on their home track if they have one, and in St. Moritz. And St. Moritz is, well, has historically been the home for Great Britain. Brad Hall 2nd in the World Cup standing, still ahead of Hansi Lochner. Francesco Friedrich remains our points leader after 5 of the 8 World Cups in 4-man this season, and World Cup number 6 comes up in less than 24 hours at midday tomorrow. Let's hope for a little colder weather overnight, though fortunately it didn't destroy the race for our front runners at all. And that is it for day 1 of 4-man here. Hall, Friedrich, Lochner, their crews on the podium, but the Brits on the top step. And we get to do it all again tomorrow. Tomorrow morning kicks off at 9 o'clock with the women's bobsleigh, and midday with 4-man again. We'll see you then. On behalf of the entire IBSF TV crew in St. Moritz, Martin Haven saying thank you for joining us. Join us again tomorrow, 9 CET, 8 GMT, 3 Eastern, for more action from St. Moritz. Bye for now.